What's up, YouTube? This is going to be my collection video for December of 2015. I've tried to make a collection video at least once a year or so since I've been making YouTube videos. Obviously in front of you is the knife that is pretty much in every single knife review that I've done. The Reeve knives, large Sebenza 21 with micarta inlays. What I'm going to be doing is pretty much breaking down, there'll just be clips of different videos with different knife brands that I've collected, and I'll talk maybe briefly about each one if it calls for it, but hopefully you guys enjoy this video. It's going to be pretty long. It's going to be a feature-length video, but it's pretty much impossible to get the entire collection all in at once. I've got a spider pack as well as a Pelican 15-20 case with like 60 or 60 knives in there, and plus another small Pelican box with my really high-end knives in there. So I'm just gonna, as I progress, I'll just kind of clip in and clip out the different knives in my collection by brands or by category or whatever, until I get to the high-end customs. So you guys can skip in or skip around if you want to, or if you want to watch the whole thing, please sit back, grab your popcorn, and enjoy. Here we go. Alright, so to kick things off, I'm just going to start with kind of a smorgasbord of miscellaneous knives. And I'm not doing these in any particular order, so I was kind of classifying by brands, Spyderco and Benchmade and Zero Tolerance and whatnot. I actually ended up forgetting like these knives that are kind of just laying around in my office. But yeah, to kick it off, this is my only slip joint in my entire collection, if you don't count the Spyderco dog tag as a slip joint. But this is a Case Sod Buster Jr. knife that someone just gave to me as a gift a long time ago, so I'm very thankful for it. Really sharp, but I'm just not a slip joint guy, so never gets carried. But it's a really, for all intents and purposes, actually a pretty solid knife. Rivets but my only experience with any kind of slip joint knife here. So I don't even know what kind of steel it is. I know Case uses kind of random steels, or I don't really know much about Case anyway. So there's that. Here is a Quartermaster. This is the Murdoch. Don't know what the model name was, but really just small, chunky knife. I think it's about a 2-inch blade or so of CPM 154. Quartermaster is a somewhat controversial company, but I'm not going to get into it. Next, you got this little Spyderco Bug. Really cool blade. I totally forgot I had this thing. But stainless steel design, not even a lockback. I guess this is a slip joint too, so I already made a mistake. But this is a slip joint as well as this little Sodbuster Jr. But little tiny knife right there. Never carried. This is a ProTech Mini Runt automatic, California legal because it's so small. Cool little knife. Also never gets carried. I should consider carrying this around because it is pretty cool. 154 cm B blasted blade on there. Next you've got a Benchmade Snody Activator. This is the Sprint Run version. So the normal one has D2 steel with a wood, I think it's like a wine wood scale. This one's got the carbon fiber and then the silver twill fiber scales. I'm not sure if it's G10 or fiber scale on there. I really like the contrast of this one. This one was gifted to me by a friend. Really cool little fixed blade. I just keep this in one of my packs. CRKT Swindle. This is the grooved version, obviously, and it's got the slightly higher end Sandvik steel on here. But I also noticed that this one rusts. Sandvik I thought was somewhat corrosion resistant. Being out in California, you don't have that high of humidity, but I've noticed that this one is rusting on the spine as well as right there in the choil area. You can see that So just a thing to note about the steel. This one is the cold steel spike, the Tonto spike. This also was, I think, was gifted or just included in some package of a trade a long time ago. It's kind of a glorified ice pick for me. So just cool little blade, intimidating little blade. And then the most intimidating blade in my entire collection is this Raja 2 from Cold Steel. I love this knife. I've used this to chop down big old plants in my backyard. The kukri style just makes for a great chopper. This is my car knife. I keep this in my car in case anything ever happens. The Aus 8, I don't know how long it would actually last, but this, you know, if anybody gives you trouble in the car, I just whip this thing out and you got a good 12 inches right there to intimidate somebody. So there you go. That's the random start to this collection video. Next up, we got a couple of knives from Boker Plus, as well as 2 from Hoque. Just including it here to make it a little bit faster. I'm not going to segment it by every single brand, but here you got the titanium scaled Boker Quaken from Burnley, collaboration with Lucas Burnley. I used to have a custom Burnley Quaken, which I loved, but the chance to trade it off for another knife came up and I couldn't pass it up. So I've heard so many good things about this Boker, and I have a review on it. It's a great knife. I think this is the best executed knife that I've experienced personally from Boker. You know, no issues with the lock failing or anything like that. These are steel liners versus some of the other ones that have had issues with titanium frame locks and whatnot, and as well as the blade tang, you know, is cut well in this area. So this is a great knife. This unfortunately has the Aus 8, not the VG10. Then here's the Jeremy Marsh collaboration. This is the Mini Vanquish. Obviously this one has been customized. It does have the blue titanium original liners, but I did heat anodize the stainless steel bolsters as well as the clip and that thumb stud. And then I acid stone washed, really deep acid stone wash on this 440C blade. So great looking knife, but execution wise it was pretty much a failure. Next you have the GTC Federal from Boker Plus. This is a cool knife, 440C blade. Works decently, flips pretty well. It is on bearings. The clip is a little bit hokey. It's a cool concept, but a little bit hokey. Sorry for how dirty it is. I've actually used this knife a little bit. Interestingly enough, I just noticed, you know, this knife has been in my little Spyderco knife pouch. You can see some rusting on the blade. You know, 440C is supposed to be known for its pretty high corrosion resistance, but even in California, it's still prone to get some rust on there. So just a note there. Next you have the Boker Plus, the Epicenter, Todd Rexford design. Really cool knife in terms of design and features, and you know, thick titanium slabs. A lot of ornate aspects to this knife, from the backspace or the standoffs to this, you know, at least kind of somewhat nice looking spring clip. VG10 blade steel, all sub $100 about. But man, the way the blade tang was cut and everything, you know, this knife was kind of a nightmare. You know, still has up and down play, but yeah, I mean, it even has a pivot collar. You know, this is a pretty old knife, and you know, pivot collars weren't employed that often back then. So pretty cool knife nonetheless. Then for the Hogues, I got the EX01. This is the 4-inch Tonto, a green aluminum version, collaboration with Alan Olishowitz. And then we got the, oh man, the EX02. This is the mini tank collaboration for Hogue. So Hogue is by, you know, way better in terms of quality than Boker Plus. These are made in the United States, 154 cm steel. Yeah, so alright, so those are the Boker Pluses and the Hogue in my collection. Alright, next up we got the Spydercos in my collection. It is crazy to kind of reminisce. I mean, I keep track of all the knives that I've had in my collection. So I've had 39 Spydercos, you know, and I might have missed one or two. So maybe about 40 Spydercos that have come through my collection. These are the ones that have stayed with me all this time. This is the knife, as probably with many of us, majority of us, that started it all. You know, it was either this one or some kind of Kershaw or maybe the Ontario Rat 1 that started the knife sickness for us. And back in December of, I think, 2011 or 2010, my brother got me a Tenacious, and this is what started it all. Still, I mean, I've never carried Tenacious anymore, but you know, still just an awesome knife, if I think about it, for the value. Anyway, next up is paramilitary. As I was going through it, I've had like 8 different paramilitaries. This is the only one that I have left. It's kind of a Frankenstein one. This is the original Sprint run with the 204P steel. No, I'm sorry, no, not the 204P, the 20CP steel. So the original gray G10 model. Then I took the scales from a S35 VN paramilitary and then acid stonewashed the blade, and but this is the one that stuck with me. So it's pretty much equivalent to S90V if I remember correctly. This one also is a customized titanium military. So I put a black blade on the titanium military, anodized these a kind of olive gold color on the scales. Got the black clip as well from a black bladed G10 military. So there's that one. Next up we've got the Spyderco Southern, one of the top production knives in my opinion of all time. Definitely a classic, the first flipper that Spyderco ever made. And then you got the Jimbo. This is one of those knives that really grew on me with the Warncliffe blade. Really ergonomic. So I ended up getting the Knifeworks Sprint with the carbon fiber and S90V blade as well. So this is a really cool one. I kind of acid wash and burnt flame treated this clip. Kind of got this dark eggplant color on there, which is kind of cool. Then we got the titanium ATR. I've had this knife for a long time. It's just one of those pieces that's just really hard to come by, and so I've always kind of kept it in my collection. Really cool knife. I've always fantasized about having a titanium compression lock paramilitary, and this is the closest one that I've seen yet. So I'm still waiting for that Sprint run TI compression lock, because it's one of my favorite locks of all time. And then next up you got the Spyderco Air from Gale Bradley, M4 steel, no pocket clip. This is one of those little, almost like a slip joint type style knife that you can have in your collection. And then this was gifted to me from a cool guy in a trade. This is the, I don't even know what they call it, the Surge dog tag knife from Serv Pachenko with that crazy green anodized titanium frame with blue teal anodized aluminum. So interesting knife. I haven't done a review on it. And then finally I just did a review on this knife, the Spyderco Rubicon. In my opinion, the best executed Spyderco to date, but not the best one. The best one in my opinion is still the Paramilitary 2. So there you have it on the Spydercos. Next up we got our Benchmades. Another knife company that I've had so many different knives from them, 28 in total. It just blows my mind that there's that many Benchmades. I think I was really turned on to Benchmade early on in my knife collecting, and thought the axis lock was awesome. And then for whatever reason, I just ended up not liking it as much, and so now I'm down to 3 axis locks left. So this is my Benchmade. This is my favorite Benchmade, probably of all time. But this is the Shane Seibert 755 MPR mini pocket rocket with the original TI titanium clip that I reversed over here for tip-up carry. Obviously, this one's been modified with black scales now. Just Rit dyed it from the forest green to the black, and then stone washed the titanium on here. M390 clip, you know, rock solid lock up here. Just a really cool chunky knife for the pocket. Here we've got this one is the 470 Emissary. Don't know why I still have this knife in my collection. It's definitely not one of my favorite ones, but sharp knife to say the least. Then we've got the CPM M4. This is the 810 Contigo, the Warren Osborne designed Contigo. Just a crazy work knife with this carbide tip here for glass breaking, really thick stainless steel backspacer. Put a regular titanium clip on here, but the M4 blade steel is one of my favorite steels. So this is a really heavy duty, good heavy duty knife if you can get past all the hard jimping. You know, if you're using gloves and all those things, those jimps will serve you well. And then we've got the 860 Bedlam, just a nasty Persian blade on here. Still like the Emerson Persian more, but this has been in my collection for a while. Brand new. I've always been meaning to sell it, but just never got around to it. So just a really mean blade. If you will even fit in frame. There we go. And then finally, 2 Benchmade Balisongs. Or not really, this is a Bradley, but it's produced by Benchmade. So the 51 Morpho D2 steel with the jeweled blue titanium. Really great knife. It's really lightweight. I'm not, you know, a really accomplished flipper, so I won't even pretend to be. But I love having Balisongs in the collection. I'm not gonna go out and get like crazy custom ones, but this Balisong, this Bradley Mayhem, actually is one of my most used knives around the house. You know, when I'm in the garage and stripping down boxes, this is actually one that I frequently grab. The S30V holds up really well. Just having, I don't know, it's the only time that I can really carry around a Balisong in the house, so given that I'm in California. But yeah, so these are my Benchmade / Bradley's Benchmade produced knives in my collection. Alright, next up we got the 0 tolerances, and I'm clumping in the Kershaws because these are the only 2 Kershaws that I have in my collection, and given they're the same company, Highe, decided I'd lump them together. So first off is the low end Kershaw. This is the 3830, the Rexford design, based off of his injection model. Just an amazing custom, obviously, but for the production model, you know, this is, I would consider this one of the best low-end production models, you know, in the category of like Tenacious and the Rat 1 and whatnot. So this is you know, HCR 13 MOV, Chinese-made knife, G10 handles, stainless steel liners. You know, I think this overall, just the look and quality of this knife is pretty great. So next up, we got the Blur. This is the carbon fiber inlaid Blur with the CPM 154. One of my, I don't know, maybe top 5 production knives in my collection. This has been modified with a deep carry clip from G Noble Knives on Instagram, and gosh, I forgot the name. I did a video for him Blue for You something on eBay. So he makes a lot of these titanium standoffs for a lot of the very common knives. So he sent me a couple of these. So really, I think it really adds to the blur. So just an amazing Ken Onion design knife. This zero tolerance, the 0300, I think is the flagship, or the original flagship for zero tolerance. You know, when they were more known at, you know, for their overbuilt knives. 0300 is just a beastly knife. This was a collaboration between, I think, Mick Strider and Ken Onion. So it's got speed safe assist on here. The next one, this 0551, the original Hinder design from Zero Tolerance. You know, I think this is the one that really put them on the map. Despite all the little inconsistencies with their LMAX and whatnot, you know, this was the first, I felt like, really made Zero Tolerance popular. So following that was the 0560. This one has been modified to like a brownish, really dirty washed titanium. I acid stone washed this blade. It's got the normal black scale with flame treatment on the liner, so everything's kind of matching on the clip as well. So just kind of a dirty work knife, even though it really hasn't been used that much. And then the Zero Tolerance 0801. This one also has been customized with a Bill Yester spring clip, titanium clip. And then also same standoffs from G Noble knives. Then I added stone wash this blade, and then anodized everything from the silver to this dark bronze. So really like the look of that knife. And then the final one, you can see I did a lot of customizations on all these zero tolerances. The 0600 BK, the black version, with my anodization of a blue and bronze on all the peaks of all those pyramids, and then with the bronze clip with the blue stripe all the way around. So 0600. So that's my collection of zero tolerances as well as Kershaw's. Alright, these are the only Chinese clone knives that I own. I'll admit that with a little bit of guilt. I was a little bit ignorant back then. I'm still ignorant to this day, actually, in collecting knives. I'm still learning as we go. But, you know, the 777 from Zero Tolerance was one that was, you know, long since discontinued, and I was like, there's no way I'm going to pay the $800, $900 price for one. And then the Matrix, I thought was, with all the controversy, I thought was one that was discontinued completely and was never going to be produced again. And then the Loxa as well, I thought was one that that Scott Cook actually was never going to produce again. So this one's an interesting story because I actually ended up getting it for free. But yeah, so anyway, these are the 2 or 3 clone knives that I have in my collection. So the 777 clone, the Matrix clone, and then the Loxa clone. To be honest, the Loxa is pretty, I mean, it's pretty bad in terms of the fit and finish. The style of the knife is amazing, and really wants me to get a Loxa if ever possible. The prices are definitely a little bit cost prohibitive for that. The Matrix, I was told, or was advertised, that this was titanium. When I tried to anodize it, it didn't work. But these are titanium. I anodized the lock bar, the clip, as well as the back spacer. So it's got this little koi engraving inside that's, I guess, not really fuller. But this is a pretty impressive blade. It's got a thick blade stock of supposedly D2 steel. It's a hefty knife. I'm assuming this is steel, but it's not magnetic either. Anyway, and then the 0777 this is an incredibly smooth knife, also with D2 blade steel. It's got the coating on there. No markings of the 777 or ZT markings, but it's got all the same, you know, features. These have roller bearings on them, so they're not the thrust bearings, but those rollers, and it's smoothed out quite a bit, and the lockup is solid, and they came really sharp. So that aside, I'm not advertising for these knives, but you know, I do have them in my collection. I may do these as giveaways, but I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily want them out there either. So anyway, those are the clones. Alright, next up, just taking a little bit of a break from the knives, are some of the pens in my collection. I know some of the people kind of troll and ask, you know, why are you doing pens in a knife for collection video? A lot of us knife guys are big EDC fanatics and carry all different kinds of things in our pockets, whether it's, you know, danglers or knuckles or, you know, here's just a small Monroe, Derek Monroe dangler, to leather goods and pry bars, can openers. Here's my Rexford Rut that I didn't include in any other part of my collection, so I'll just include it here. But all different kinds of things that people put in, whether it's dog tags or crosses, flashlights. That's a huge one. But I found that pens are really important. I think pens and flashlights actually are really good things to have in your EDC all the time. I actually use them probably way more than knives, even though I have way too many knives in my collection. So yeah, pens come in handy a lot, and the very first pen that I ever owned, or tactical, you know, just higher end pen, more than $1 pen, like big pen. The first one was this Benchmade 1101. This one is made out of aluminum. You can see it's been kind of beaten up and used quite a bit. I actually tried to puncture something before, you know, with this. This isn't the carbide tip, this is just the aluminum tip. So, you know, it worked fine. It's just got this clicky cap here, and it's just, I find that's really nice. Going in and out, it secures tight on the end here, so in case, you know, you don't want to lose your cap and you're riding for a while, this is one way to secure it on there. Uses the Fisher pen insert refill, and found out it's been really great. I like the Fisher fine liners more than the medium points, so I think just find that it writes a little bit better. So this also, I think for the Benchmade, out of all these pens, I actually think that this clip is the best clip out of the bunch. Even though it's stainless steel, that's totally fine. I wouldn't anodize this one. And I only mentioned that because, you know, certain titanium ones, you know, then allows for anodization, which I do plan to do on some of my other titanium pens. Next up is the Highe Investigator pen. Just a really small form factor pen, CNC machined, really good threading. Every time you just put it on, it doesn't matter where you start the cap, it screws on perfectly. Really small clip here, thin clip, and it kind of comes off high, so this has, you know, sometimes been a issue scratching things, you know, when it's in your pocket, or, you know, it falls out relatively easily too. And so sometimes it's possible to lose this pen pretty easily. It has a little modular tip that you can buy different kind of tips from Highe in case you want to do that, or do a flat tip. Not really a tactical, I mean it could be, but it's really, you know, not much protrudes from your hand. So this will still do damage, but yeah, it doesn't really protrude that much in terms of a tactical pen. But uses the Fisher insert as well, but a really cool option if you're just looking for a small little pen option. Next one is the titanium Highe. This is the Extreme Duty pen. Much larger, obviously, than the Investigator pen, and it's very modular. So there's all different kinds of tips and caps and you know, very aggressive type style tips that you can put on here on this knife, or I'm sorry, on this pen, and you can see how much comes out, you know, from your hand versus the Investigator. So this works much better if you were to use this as a tactical defense style pen. And then if you had those different kind of spikes on the end here, you can really do quite a bit of damage. I forgot what that one is where it has the kind of nubs or little spike nubs all over the place, and you can really, man, you could really do some damage on someone. So, but this also uses Fisher pen insert and all titanium. So this is, you could even anodize it and have some fun with it. Next up, I got this from the initial release from Matthew Martin. If you don't know, Matthew Martin is the son of the renowned knife maker R.J. Martin. And so his son, he made these pens when he was back in high school. I think he's in college now. He's got to be in college now because I've had this pen for quite a while. But this is all titanium and carbon fiber. I guess a fabric or material that's wrapped around the titanium. Also somewhat of a tactical pen. This is actually the sharpest tip on any of these pens that I own. This has scratched quite a few things in my pocket. Most notably my phone. It's scratched up my phone screen a couple times, and it's kind of weird because it's titanium, and you wouldn't think that it's supposed to, would be that hard, on the hardness scale. But it's scratched up the glass a number of times on 2 or 3 different iPhones that I've had before. So the clip is good. It's got good retention. So yeah, not too bad. But I don't carry this one that much because of that sharp tip in my pocket. But I do carry it in my bag and really enjoy riding with it. Next up is the Brian Fellholter tie bolt. This was from the Kickstarter release, Kickstarter campaign. Tie bolt is an awesome pen. It's really fun to play with. Really is, that clicking gets really, really addictive. Something's up with the spring here. I just opened it up just to see what was inside. But this uses Parker inserts. The Matt Martin uses Parker inserts as well. I love everything about this pen. It's pretty hefty. Obviously, it's titanium. The bolt action is the best that I've ever experienced. You can even do a little nub for like iPads and tablets and stuff like that if you wanted to. So they have that extra accessory. The one thing that I don't like about the tie bolt or any of the other tie bolt series things like the pencil or the flashlight is the clip. It looks really nice because it's so low profile, but clipping into jeans and really any kind of pants, it really sits up high, and then there's not enough clearance in that pocket clip for a lot of pants. And so the pocket clip ends up riding kind of high out of it like that. Doesn't necessarily lose its spring, but it kind of slips out pretty easily in my experience. So my least favorite clip, if it just had a little bit more clearance on there, I think this would pretty much be a perfect package. And so one of the reasons that I got this next pen, this is the Daryl Caston. This is also from his Kickstarter release. I got just the plain naked titanium version. He offered all different kinds, like a zirconium one, different polishes, different finishes on his knife, but I just got the raw one straight off the CNC machine because I do plan on doing some work to it, whether it's stonewashing it or darkening it or anodizing it. So but yeah, this is also a bolt style knife. I'm sorry, I keep saying knife because that's what I'm all about, but pen. And it's a good one. It's a little bit harder to get to than, say, the tie bolt. You have to kind of dig your nail in, but there's jimping, so you could use your thumb, but it's a little bit uncomfortable. The other thing to notice is it's ovular or elliptical, and so the grip takes a little bit of time to get used to because it's like thin, but then it's wide, and so it's almost like writing with one of those carpenter pencils. I think when I was writing for a while, it got a little bit uncomfortable, but as a really thin EDC style pen, it's pretty good. The clip is better than the tie bolt because of the clearance there, and it rides really deep. So it's a pretty nice option if you can get used to that tie bolt. Finally is the Prometheus Alpha pen. This is by far my favorite pen in my collection. I customized it by anodizing this part, blue, as well as the clip blue. This uses Mont Blanc refills and inserts. Right now I have the fine liner, not the fine liner, the what's it called? The gel, I don't know, the gel insert. And I think it's great. I love it. I think it's the rollerball insert actually. This by far rides the best with the Mont Blanc inserts, and it's the most comfortable. I think rides in the pocket the best. The pocket clip is really good. Not quite as good as the Benchmade, but you got plenty of clearance, good retention. Everything about this is so smooth. Jason's work at Prometheus is so good. I've had his flashlight, his Beta QR quick release flashlight here on my keychain from his Kickstarter. I also have the top. That's another EDC thing that people carry around, but the top I like to carry every once in a while just to play with. But all those things, fit and finish wise, are absolute perfection. The screw design on here is perfect as well. So this is my best and favorite pen, and the one I would recommend the most out of all these. So yeah, anyway, those are the pens in my collection. Hopefully it helps if you guys are into kind of like filling up your EDCs. And but again, pens I feel like are really, really useful items in your EDC. So that's the pen section. Alright, next up we're getting to slightly higher end stuff. No real reason why I'm combining these together, but got some Brous blades. Then you've got some Brian tie, which I would consider more custom, even though there's a lot more, a lot of CNC machining on here. I guess they're all CNC machined, if you will, but I really wouldn't consider them midtechs. So there's some custom aspects, but these are production Lionsteels here. So I'll start off with the Brous. This is the original Silent Soldier folder. This has the tip down clip that I don't have mounted on here because I absolutely hate that clip. But this is one of my, I really, really like this knife with that blade hole for your index finger to sit in. The concept of that is ingenious. So I don't have any of his fixed blades, Silent Soldiers, but this is a really, really cool blade. So recently I got this XL version, which I really like. It's got the tip up clip now. I like this knife a lot more than the original, except the fact that it doesn't have that hole. I still wish it had that hole for my index finger to rest in. But as it is, it's still a really, really cool blade. I just love the form factor of the Silent Soldier from Jason Brous. Next up, you got the Turpin Strife from Jason Brous. Recently did a review on it, haven't posted it, but this is definitely not my favorite knife. Has its issues, and you'll see them in the review eventually. But yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Alright, next up we've got, see if I can move some of these over here. So I'll do my Brian tie knives here. This is the Nerk tie, 4-inch model with the fluting on the blade. I just absolutely love this knife. The Nerk lock is, I think, pretty ingenious. Not ingenious in that it's kind of like a back lock, but just how much, how they use the titanium and how they skeletonize it and how they turn it into a spring to actuate that lock, I think is just pretty fascinating. The anodizing on all the depressed parts in the frame, I think is really cool, and then with the satin kind of polished finish around is ingenious. The only knock on this knife, because it's so ambidextrous, I mean, he should have included Not that I really care because I'm right-handed, but you know, for all intents and purposes, this could have been a left-handed carry knife very easily, and it would have been very practical to have that. But just an observation, especially for the Nerk lock, it just makes sense. All right, next up we've got the tie rod. This one is anodized in the purple and silver. This too has a Nerk, but like a forward Nerk lock instead of all the way back here. Also has the fluting pattern on the blade. Just really, really wicked. Brian, I think Brian's a genius. He's a mad scientist with a CNC machine. So all these skeletonized parts on the titanium really lighten it up. Same thing. It's a right-hand pocket clip, but it could very easily be a good flipper for a left-hander. So anyway, tie rod. Recent acquisition for Brian Tie is the Tie Tack 2. This is the button lock, or I think it only comes in a button lock version. But my first button lock from Brian Tie, extremely smooth. This is the acid stonewash version with just the all silver handles here. So yeah, just a awesome. I love Brian Tie's work. Definitely up for getting a Tycoon one of these days if I keep keep going with this. Next up we got the Lionsteel. This is the Iguana Damascus version. I did customize this, anodize this bronze because I just think that bronze goes so well with the blackened Damascus. So just to give it a little bit more flavor, I really like that style. And then finally, to round out this section, is the tie spine with the polished bronze or polished gold anodization. Really cool knife as well. You know, cheap in terms of integrals. So if you're really into integral knives, whether it's like the Rosenti Snafu or the Estrella from Michael Raymond, obviously the Scott Cook Loxa, and you're just like, there's no way I'll be able to afford those. You know, the Lionsteel is a really interesting way to go. Really good quality, to be honest. There's a reason why they got best manufacturing and beat out Chris Reeve 2 years. You know, for 2 years, that's pretty impressive. Speaks a lot to their manufacturing and their build quality and all those things. So all right, so that wraps up this section: the Brouses, the ties, and Lionsteel. All right, next up we've got the Chris Reeve knives in my collection. It's hard to believe that I've had 22 Chris Reeve knives come through my collection, from the tie lock to the I had a regular Sebenza as well as a Menundi. I think the Menundi was one of my first really high-end ones because it had the mammoth bark inlays in it. But anyway, whittled down to these 6. So no particular order. Just got a heavily used small Sebenza. You can see all the wear marks on that scale. Just a fantastic, awesome small knife to carry for EDC. Next up, small Insingo with micarta inlays. Just a really great knife all around. I love the shape of the Insingo blade over the clip points. So this is probably one of my favorite small carry knives. This is the Knife Art exclusive carbon fiber scaled Sebenza Insingo. Just a large version. Just a great option as a larger, lightweight carry knife. This is the knife on which the benchmark for all of the other knives, custom and production and otherwise. Micarta Sebenza 21. This is probably my favorite iteration of all Sebenzas. Maybe with a Damascus blade it would make it even sweeter, but who knows? It might get one of those eventually. The Umnumzan with the Brad Southard backspacer, titanium. These are really hard to come by, so this really makes this Umnumzan special to me in my collection. Doesn't necessarily make it more comfortable, but just love the look of that gear pattern. I feel like it really matches well with that cross hatching on the scales. So just another great design I mean, it's similar, but just a little bit beefier than the Sebenza 21. And then finally you got the Sebenza 25 with the micarta inlays. So never had a computer graphics or any other like wood inlaid Sebenza. Those are definitely ones that I wish I could have in my collection, as well as the annuals. You know, the annuals are pretty hard to come by nowadays. But yeah, anyway, that's the Chris Reeve side of my collection. Stay tuned for the next bit. Next up are the Striders in my collection. Had about 14 or 15 different Striders, from PTs to the SMFs, run through my collection. Never had any custom Striders though, so that's one thing we'll see down the road if that ever happens. But now it's down to 3 SNGs, this SJ75 and this fixed blade. This one is the Blue Line Gear Tonto SNG with PD1 steel. So this is probably my favorite Strider, most used Strider in my collection. Next up is the black DGG double gunner grip with also PD1 steel with 3/4 grind. This one also has a peak gray lock bar stabilizer on here. And then this is just a regular Lego Strider with tiger stripe and the flame treatment. Flame treatment is one of my favorite looks on Striders, if not almost all knives. This one also has a tiger stripe S30V blade. This one, similar to that one, is featuring flame treatment, SJ75 with a tiger stripe with a black G10 scale. And then last is my fixed blade. This is my SLCC Warncliffe, done for Monkey Edge. You can see the Monkey Edge logo right there. This one has been used a lot. This also has carbon fiber scales or handles made for it. Can't remember who did it. I'll have to look that up. I want to say Carl's Leather Goods, but man, I'm not sure now. But anyway, it has just this little lanyard on here and Kydex sheath. So those are the Striders in my collection. Alright, Hinders. I've actually have 4 Hinders. I lent out my 3-inch Hinder slicer to my brother, so he's got it right now. Had a number of Hinders in my collection to this date, but have held on to these 4. This one is my oldest Hinder. This is one with a Crine regrind on it. Probably the best, better than Rick's, in my opinion, because I mean Tom Crine is just the master of grinds and regrinds and whatnot. And so, this knife is just the ultimate slicer. It's super, super thin edge, as you can possibly imagine, on a Hinder. So that's that one. It's got a coyote brown scale with copper back spacers on there. This one is a Skinner grind with, I've kind of just went crazy on the modification here a little bit, but a blue liner, blue spacers, blue clip, blue tab filler, bronze the frame lock side, Skinner grind, S35 VN. Yeah, so this one, XM18, 3.5 inch, and then finally this is an XM24 with, this is original stock from Hinder, so blue frame lock side, blue titanium spacers, black G10 with regular liner on here. This is a bead blasted kind of working finish, non-flipper, which I actually like non-flippers versions of Hinders more so than the flippers, just because still the flipping action on Hinders is pretty pretty useless. So yeah, anyway, so that's the Hinders of my collection. All right, next up we got the Emersons in my collection. You know, Emersons I've had because there's so many different models, and each one, almost each one, is pretty awesome, to be honest. Especially a number of years ago. Now I think, you know, Ernie Emerson's been coming out with so many different models that I haven't been able to keep up, and I haven't tried any of the newer ones like the Iron Dragon or the Sheepdog. I kind of moved on, but some of the classic Emersons I'm still really gung-ho about. So these, you know, having 19 different Emersons in my collection, these are the ones that I've kept, especially the custom or customized ones here. So anyway, starting off with the production ones, here's the mini Roadhouse. This one has been de-waved, giving it a little bit more streamlined design. This kind of katana tanto shape, I think, is pretty awesome. It's very, you know, just like every Emerson, is very comfortable. This large hilt is really nice for defensive purposes. Next up, you got the CQC 15, one of my favorite design, but not my favorite. It's the recurve tanto grind. I think Emerson, this is just an amazing design. This kind of double hilt design that locks your grip in. Just a cool. I love his satin grinds, the stonewash flats with the satin polish is just awesome. Next up is this is my favorite design from Emerson ever, the CQC 13. Extremely ergonomic grip. This is a 2008 model, so it's actually got the smoother G10, which I really like as well. It's not overly grippy. And then the Bowie style blade on this, plus the wave feature. I mean, this is one of my favorite knives of all time. Doesn't get carried enough, but you'll see a reason in just a second. My favorite eccentric knife. You're hearing me say a lot of favorites, you know, because I mean, Emerson, I don't know what it is. His designs just, if they grab you, I mean, they just grab you. And so whether it's 13, the designer of the 15, the Gypsy Jack is, you know, my most eccentric knife in my collection. Just these crazy curves, this banana curved straight handle, if you will, with this crazy, I guess you wouldn't really call it kukri, but you know, recurve blade with this massive round belly and this almost like harpoonish tip blade. It's just really cool. And the fact that Johnny Depp owns the custom version, I mean, that just makes it all the cooler, right? This is one that I've had 2 of these, and I plan on sending this one after I was able to get another one. I plan on sending this one to Nath one of these days to get it customized and po-boyed. So yeah, I absolutely love this knife. One of my favorite ones is Fresno, the one that Jeff made with that Texture Tech samurai texture bolsters. Is just pretty sweet. Next up, we've got the Combat Karambit. This is my meanest knife, most badass knife, if you will. Pardon the French. I love this knife. It's cool. It's cool to play with. It's scary to play with. If you guys have seen my review on it, probably a number of years ago, this knife within 5 seconds of opening it out of the package sliced my finger open, and then within the next 5 minutes I sliced myself again. Scary knife if you're not careful with this. I mean, just super sharp. That tip will just grab you and rip you open. So treat karambits with a lot of respect. Next this is my only customized po-boy knife, the Mini 7. This was actually customized by Nathawut. So really cool with the green micarta scales, titanium bolsters, and Nath's, you know, custom pivot. This is really the only Emerson that I have that can flick. Of course, when I say that, that can flick pretty easily, and I think it's because he takes that double detent out of there, and so it's allowed to kind of fly out a little bit easier. But really cool knife. CQC 13 custom from Emerson. I got the peak gray oversized thumb disc, as well as the steel flame Bushido clip on there. being that the 13 is my favorite Emerson ever, I mean, to get a custom is a no-brainer. It's relatively new in my collection, and I don't think this will ever leave my collection. I absolutely love this knife, and I've carried it a couple of times. I still haven't really scratched it up, but I do plan to mess this one up and use it to its full glory. So once I can get around that, but yeah, I love this knife. I absolutely love this knife. And then finally, to round out all of my Emersons, this is the CQC5. If you guys know, the CQC5 and the CQC6 are kind of like the rarest ones out there. I'm hoping to get a CQC6 one of these days in my collection because it's, man, I love it. After I got to handle a number of sixes at a recent gathering, USN local gathering in the Bay Area, I just fell in love with it. The wave, the size of it's just a little bit bigger than the 5. I love the 5 already, so yeah, one of these days, if I can put up the money or get a good trade to get a 6, I'm going to own one. But right now, the 5 is going to hold me over. This one has no wave, but it does have the Federal thumb disc, which acts as a wave, if you guys didn't know that. And then this is a custom Timascus or Microtech clip from Fernando at Lionworks. So, yep. All right, that rounds out my Emersons. Stay tuned for the next bit. All right, next up, we're gonna get in some production and then high-end customs here. But the Microtechs and Marfiones, I'm gonna just clump them together here. First off, we got the production LCC, the Lightfoot Compact Carry. Just recently did a review on this one, 154 cm blade. Just a really, really cool classic blade, you know, all the way from year 2000. So pretty crazy that this blade has kind of stood the test of time. Not as popular today, but you can see my comments on the review that I did just a couple of days ago. Next up, you got the production Whale Shark. Just an incredibly smooth deployment blade, running on ceramic bearings. This one's got S35 VN steel. You can see this one's got a lot of use, actually, from the previous user, but I use this one quite a bit in the garage because it's a user. And so just a really, really cool blade. I think it's been since discontinued, so I haven't seen many out there recently. Next up, you got the SOCOM Delta production model with G10. This one is special because it's got the CTS 204P steel that you can see right there. So I think the best steel that was offered on these runs of Deltas. They have all different kinds now, you know, whether it's ATS-34 or LMAX or S30V aluminum scales, but this is my favorite production Delta out of all the ones that I've seen. Now getting into the customs, the custom DOC. This one is the carbon fiber version with the vapor blasted blade. So you can see how smooth that hollow grind is with that vapor blast. The flats have been satin finished, but otherwise, you know, vapor blasted all around. It's a really cool blade, collaboration with Strider. Obviously, you see the SMF elements in this knife. Then, custom version of the SOCOM Delta. SOCOM Delta was one of my favorites production level, and so I had to get the custom level. I traded for this knife. Did I trade for this knife or I bought this knife? I can't remember, but anyway, you know, the full titanium, distressed titanium, with that semi-polished satin finished blade with just these grinds. I mean, it just killed me. I had to have this knife. There's a 2012 model Marfione original. So, yeah, I absolutely love this knife. And then I got the custom Whale Shark. This one's got the blue titanium hardware as well as the back spacer. That nice polished pivot around the beveling. Again, satin polished finish on the blade. Just, I mean, the blood fullers on, you know, the Delta and the Whale Shark. This is just an absolute stunner. of a piece. And then finally, I think my favorite Microtech in my collection, only because I don't own a sigil, but I think this might still beat out the sigil. But this Annex is one of my most carried custom knives. Prices have gone down actually on this knife quite a bit, so if you have a chance to snag one, you should. But it's a full, not full integral, but integral frame with this integrated frame lock, so it can be replaced. So I don't know if that's one of the reasons why it's cheaper, but this milled clip with this Highe ceramic bearing for pocket retention. Just the deployment on this knife, whether it's thumb flicking, whether it's middle finger flicking, whether it's slow deployment or whatever, it just makes it awesome. Super smooth knife, even kind of like a front flipper type style knife. You could almost do that if you really wanted to. So very versatile knife. I think just the overall aesthetics of the knife, for me, I love this huge blade that fits within this pretty thinly profiled handle. I think it looks really sharp. So, excuse me, probably one of my favorite knives, top 5, definitely top 10 in my collection. So, all right, so those are all my Microtech and custom Marfiones in my collection. All right, next up, these are what I'm going to classify as the classic midtechs. The ones that started the midtech craze or kind of continue to follow along the midtech craze. And I think I kind of classify midtech one as, knives that are, or certain parts of knives that are outsourced to other companies or whatnot, and yet have been somewhat touched by the different maker or the different custom makers, maybe save for the Mod 4. I think this is all done in house, so this actually might be considered a custom, even though it's CNC machined and things like that. But I think I'm not positive if it's a hand ground blade. But basically plain titanium with either S35 steel or XHP steel or some kind of moderate, decent level steel. So, and it's meant to kind of be customized for the end user, if you will. So this one is really, in my opinion, the one that started it all, started the mid-tech craze. These knives, jumped up in price like exorbitantly when they first came out. But the Les George VECP, yeah, I mean, you see just the blank titanium slates, for scales, and then or for handles, and then XHP steel on this one. So this I would consider, even though I think Ken Onion had one, or at least he coined the phrase, is what I heard or read. But the Les George VECP is kind of what I consider the grandfather or the originator of this whole mid-tech phase in our knife collecting world. Next up, you got the Kingdom Armory. This is the Mini Samaritan. This is, I think, a V version 1 with the faux dragon skin or cratered bolsters. This one I've obviously anodized blue here with the matching blue clip on the other side. So got that one there. This one is somewhat more of a production, but I just kind of classify it quality wise. It's kind of just up there with the midtechs. This is the Triple Aught Design Production Dauntless. This is the version 1 with the full titanium scales and titanium backspacer. This one has been modified with the 755 MPR Benchmade clip to give it kind of a Shane Seibert feel. I absolutely love this knife. This is just a great knife. Rumored to be made by ProTech, but I'm not sure if that's how true that is. Then we've got the Jeremy Robertson Calavera Cutlery, the Mod 4. Just an awesome user knife. Really ergonomic, feels great. It just feels like it's meant to be used. Really thin grind of XHP steel. Also, you could just modify this to whatever you wanted. This one, same thing from Bad Blood. The Sean Kendrick, David Mosier, Burning Horizon collaboration. This one has been modified with a new grind, a thinner, leaner grind from Alex Dietz, as well as this 3D milled clip from Alex Dietz. I anodized this. Did I anodize this one? I think I anodized it bronze, and then I anodized the standoffs a dark blue, purplish blue, and then acid etched this blade to give it that really user feel. Michael Birch version 2. I think this is modeled after the Impetus, if I'm not mistaken. Just that huge, broad parrot beak style blade, double thumb studs, anodized the clip, blue. But this is what I'm saying. I mean, this is, you know, you could anodize the whole thing bronze, you could Scotch Brite the flats, and do all kinds of things just to give it your own flavor. For a lot of these midtechs, yeah, you can do it with productions, you can get all the knife modders to do stuff, but you know, for someone like me, I love anodizing, I love kind of customizing here and there, acid stone washing, and so having this blank slate is just really fun to work with. Here you got the Graham midtech SS3. This one features CPM 154. I bronzed the scales, and then, or actually did a blue anodization on this one, and then I Scotch Brited all the flats and all the different bevels on here, and then re-bronzed it so to have this bronze blue finish on that presentation scale, which I think it just looks awesome. Clip, you know, and being that it's attached to this one, just bronzed as well because it's all titanium. So really cool. Was thinking about acid etching this blade. Probably just gonna keep it the way it is, but I really like, you know, Graham's Razel blade is really cool. This flat edge, chisel edge with razor finish is just really cool. Next up, the Southern midtechs. This is the Avo from Monkey Edge with the frag pattern. So there's only, I heard only about 7 or so of these released in the public. So it's pretty cool to be able to have one. I did anodize this one as well. So did the same thing, the blue finish on everything, and then Scotch Brited all the flat areas, and then re-anodized it bronze to get that blue bronze. I was going through this whole blue bronze phase for a while. Bronze, or as I blued the lock bar stabilizer, and then even did a blue bronze on the backspacers there. I'm sorry, not the backspacers, the standoff pillars there. So I made them all blue and then Scotch Brited all the outside and then re-bronzed it, and it just came out awesome. Kind of something that Kirby Lambert would do. So anyway, that's the Avo. You got the Tulk, which in my opinion is probably one of the best midtechs out there that money can buy, especially if you can find one for even cheaper. Absolutely smooth knife, thin profile, XHP steel. I've used this one a lot in the garage. You can see the scratch marks, you know, all over the satin finish or the grind, and you know, I customized this a little, just anodized, re-anodized the lock bar stabilizer, re-anodized the clip, re-anodized the pillars as well, and this knife is phenomenal as a thumb flipper, as a, you know, 4-finger flipper, whatever. It's just a great EDC knife for the collection. So this is a pretty heavy user in my collection. And then probably my favorite and most carried midtech would be this stout Chavez Megalodon. I love this knife. It's so smooth on bearings. Absolutely just falls down on its own weight. I can't believe how smooth it is. And it's not, you know, it's not a flipper knife, but you know, you can thumb flick it, you can middle finger flick it, whatever you want. It's got the nice milled clip on here from straight from Ramon in his factory. So this is just the shape, you know, Stout, Jason Stout customs are near impossible to get, you know, unless you're super lucky or if you're able to attend to shows and still get super lucky. So yeah, of all the midtechs that I've owned or that I own, I think this one, you know, even at its small size, is probably my favorite one out of the bunch. So, all right, so those are all the midtechs, classic midtechs that I would classify them as in my collection. Here are the Todd Beggs of my collection. I used to have a Lightning Strike Bodega, but traded that one off a while back. Here you got the Mini Glimpse friction folder in smooth brown G10. I did anodize that backspacer blue just for a little bit of contrast. It's the only friction folder in my collection as well. The blue G10 field grade Bodega. This one has the dagger grind, which I haven't seen any other dagger grinds out there, so kind of special in my collection. It flips out like no other. Probably the smoothest Bodega in my collection. And then you got the carbon fiber field grade. Just the way it shimmers in the light is pretty spectacular. This has got the compound grind and ceramic bearings inside. And then my only titanium Bodega left in my collection. This was got the black G10. I kept this one just because it was a heavy user for me. For a long time I used this one, carried this one all the time. But actually I ended up carrying the CF field grade a lot more nowadays. But yeah, anyway, that's the Todd Begg part of my collection. Alright, next up, these are, I guess, what I would just call my very rarely carried customs. There's no better name. These are just knives that I don't carry very often in my collection, but they're cool nonetheless. This one of the bunch and this one are probably some of my favorite ones. I've had this one. This is probably one of my oldest customs that I've never traded off. My Steve Kelly Collision, just with that nice compound grind, the Lightning Strike carbon fiber inlay, the file work on the spine as well as the backspacer, the intricacy, that kind of flame pattern on this milled clip. One of the first knives that I had a milled clip for. Just really impressive overall. So, but yeah, just compared to some of the other customs and higher end knives that I have, it just doesn't see much pocket time. Occasionally I'll still whip it out every once in a while. This is a Raymond Kuhn. This is called the RC2 with black ironwood scales with mokume bolsters, a large stainless steel backspacer, titanium liners, then this ladder Damascus blade. Again, just one that's never gets carried. I think I got it originally because it reminded me a lot of a Terzula. Really sharp blade, but yeah, just doesn't get carried. No pocket clip either. This is the Curtis large F3, the 4-inch version with the choil. Really great blade too. Just doesn't see enough pocket time. The Warren Thomas one. This is the Model 2. This one actually gets some pocket time whenever I go to the beach or any kind of water event. This is a full titanium and carbon fiber blade. So nothing on this knife is corrosive, and so, or you know, it's just corrosion resistant. So it's got the nice carbonizing on the edge of that blade, so it stays decently sharp. It's definitely not the sharpest tool or knife that I have, but yeah, whenever I'm near saltwater, this is typically the one I'll take, or maybe one in N690. You got the Sniper Blade Works. This is the full-size LPC. Just a massive honking thick blade of S30V. I think this is like 21 thou or something, or I'm sorry, 210 thou thick S30V. Just crazy, weird ergonomics. I owned a mini LPC a long time ago with carbon fiber and a really nice hamon on the blade. And I sold that one a while back and then ended up getting this one for a good price. And it's just kind of remained in my collection. Then we've got the Marty Young. This is a really great knife. This has got blackout Chad Nichols Damascus, and then titanium orange peeled bolsters, carbon fiber backspacer with that red G10 kind of liners that really give it a little pop on this knife, which I really like. Took the pocket clip off this knife because it was just a plain spring clip, and just didn't think it did this knife justice. Marty Young is one of those guys, custom makers, that doesn't get enough publicity, and his knives are great, you know. So check out my review on this knife. I think he did a phenomenal job. This is the Ursus, by the way. And then finally, this is the Doc Schiffer. Haven't seen many of these out. There's a lot of Doc Schiffers, but this is a large Recon, non-flipping version. Huge, just a huge blade of CPM 154, extremely sharp. It's got some little stippling. Not sure how to pronounce that word. On the normally the spine jipping area, and then on these little bolster scales, if you will. Lightning strike carbon fiber, smoothed out, slightly polished out. Carbon fiber backspacer, lightning strike carbon fiber milled clip on the other side as well. So just a really, really large knife. You know, if you compare it to, you know, full-size LPC, it's pretty big, you know, pretty long. So the lighting is not really helping it out here, but yeah. So anyway, that's the Doc Schiffer large Recon. Pretty rare. Haven't seen large ones out there too often. So all right, so this is the random customs portion of the video. Next up here, you got the quote-unquote hard use section of my collection. Not that they've seen hard use. This has seen crazy use. This is like smashed through concrete. But some of the thicker blades in my collection. Yeah, I used to have a Daliber Regulus. I wish I still had that one. Anyway, random little comment there. The Hoque, this is, you know, mid-tech quality. I wish I included this in my mid-tech section of the video, but I've customized this one, you know, with the blue bronze, like a lot of the other mid-techs, but it is a thicker stock of blade than the other ones of S35VN. But, you know, just Hoque is... Jake is, you know, just associated with really, really hard use knives. So for the most part, so you got the Hoque Quebec mid-tech there. I'll just move these up here. The Hoque A10. This one's featuring CPM 3V steel. It's got the carbon fiber kind of swelled scales here with dual bolsters, bolster lock, integral bolsters. On this knife, got the bronze titanium backspacer with the lanyard loop on there, the shark fin massive flipper. This is just incredibly, it's just a beast of a knife. You know, compared to the Direware, I think it's thicker than the Direware, so it's pretty crazy. So A10 from Jake Hoque on bearings and the Hoque rolling detent. The Direware V2 S35, you just heard that clack. I mean, it's just, this thing locks up like a bank vault. One of the most secure knives I've ever felt. Probably even more secure than this one, the Gen 5 V5 version. But yeah, the old school Direware logo, the massive Direware. Huge, just polished carbon fiber scale, like I said, super thick, you know, on 4 standoffs here. Just a crazy blade with that recurve kind of Tonto-ish blade. This is just a massive user, or not user, hard use style knife. Kind of a more formalish dieware in my collection is the version 5 with the Wharncliffe. I got this Wharncliffe and the fullers just because I really liked how the lines match up, you know, are perpendicular. I'm sorry, not perpendicular. I'm so stupid. Parallel with each other. This is featuring the Acid Stonewash S110V blade. So, you know, another super steel. It's got the Microtech milled clip on here, which kind of just complements and makes this thing just, for me, is a total looker. So I love this blade. That front choil and everything just locks your hand in. The thinner titanium as well just makes it for a more comfortable carry in pocket and in hand as well. Finally, these two fixed blades. Got the Les George 3V steel fixed VECP blade. It's a really cool blade. It actually it's sharp, but it's got a pretty thick edge bevel, so it's not the best slicer. In terms of 3V fixed blades, I tend to use my SLCCC or SLCC Strider a lot more. Or if I'm really beating on something, then I'll use this zero tolerance 0100 fixed blade. This also features CPM 3V steel. You can just see the blade has been beaten to crap. I mean, I've hacked through like branches on trees and just chopping down like stuff in the garage, and then I'd kind of miss and strike the concrete, and it's still, you know, it's still sharp. It still grabs onto my fingernail, sort of. So it's pretty impressive. Really thick bevel though, so it's not a very good slicer for sure. But anyway, those are the hard use knives, and we'll move on to the next section. All right, next up we've got some of the higher end. Well, these two get carried quite a bit actually. The rest of these don't get carried, but they're higher end knives, and this is kind of where the rest of the video is going to be moving towards. Some of the favorite ones that I carry a lot, or like favorite like safe queens, if you will. So I don't know how to necessarily categorize all these different knives. But first off, we've got the Richard Rogers Tangent. Just an amazing polished knife. CPM 154, jeweled bronze liners, kind of polished and milled pocket clip here, polished lightning strike carbon fiber. Just an amazing example of Richard's work. His 4F is one of my favorite knives that I've ever had a chance to handle. And so yeah, Richard Rogers knives are awesome. They're everything that they're cracked up to be. Kingdom Armory Custom Samaritan. This one's got the kind of Anzo-ish pattern on it. Just massively huge belly on this knife here. You got this is, I don't know if you'd really consider this a custom or a mid-tech, but the Vulcan Flipper from Matt Diskin. Just a great knife. Huge sweeping belly, almost flat ground blade. Titanium hardware on this one, steel clip for whatever reason, and then this large titanium backspacer on here. At first I thought the blade shape or blade size on this knife was a little bit disconcerting when I first got it, but after playing around with it, flipping it a lot more, using it, carrying it, it grew on me a lot. And you know, this thin profile for a handle is just extremely comfortable. Really thin profile. I'll be doing a review on this knife, but yeah, it's just quite honestly, I really like this knife. It grew on me a lot. Matt Diskin Fire, man, this just amazing knife. One of my favorite knives that I carry. LMAX steel, polished DLC on this blade here. The dual automatic action with that scale deployment. Just a really cool feature. The ergonomics on this knife, the choil, it's rock solid as an automatic flipper or automatic deployment knife, if you will, and it's completely manual, slow opening deployment if you want to. Just the overall aesthetics, sharpness, thin, super thin profile on this blade. A really, really thin tip, just the ultimate slicer, great user as an EDC. So this knife has surprised me in so many different ways. So this is probably one, I almost guarantee that this one will never leave the collection. So the matte disc and fire. Then you got the Randy Doucette Serpent. This is the quad hollow grind blade with that spear point dagger. Red carbon fiber scale with dual titanium bolsters and this coffin style milled clip. It's a great custom knife, you know, testament to these custom makers out there. Kind of in my last review of it, I kind of called it a fantasy knife, but at the same time it's practical. But you know, it's a really cool knife, but I really haven't used it that much. And then finally the Dress Alan Elishewitz Jekyll with triple grind on the swedge, hollow grind on this middle part here of the boomerang Damascus, really thin flat grind towards the edge bevel. Extremely smooth, Texture Tech, G10 and titanium scales, carbon fiber, milled clip on there. Extremely smooth on just Teflon washers. So another great example of, you know, true custom work on these knives. Alright, so let's move on to the next one. Alright, next up, I think maybe I would consider this my second tier of custom slash mid-tech production knives here. Ones that I carry a lot, save for the JW Smith. This is kind of one of my save queens, and it's not even my most expensive knife. I just think it's gorgeous. I love the JW Smith knives. But the rest of them I carry. I actually don't carry this one too much because it's a little bit small. But yeah, anyway, without further ado, first off is my David Sharp frame horn. This is with the modified Wharncliffe on here. This one's got the bronze bolsters. It was the first bolster lock that he ever did. When I was asking him to make this knife for me, and I kind of challenged him in that way, and I mean he did it. He accomplished it with flying colors, absolutely, and so he even added this Damascus backspacer in there that kind of looks like it's floating, and yeah, he absolutely knocked this one out of the park. So one of my favorite knives. David is just an absolutely great guy to work with. One of the few customs that I've gotten directly from a maker, to be honest. This JW Smith F5. You know, these are all knives that I've gotten from the secondary market or off trades and whatnot. So featuring S35 VN, hand rub finish on the blade, bronze bolsters, lightning strike carbon fiber. I think a G10 backspacer, but the fit and finish on this knife is just absolutely perfection. Not the best flipper, and this recurve is pretty pronounced, but for some reason I just absolutely love the aesthetics of this knife. Shirogorov, potentially one of the smoothest knives that I have in my collection. Flipping wise, fit and finish is completely spot on. Just an amazing production slash mid-tech knife. The finish on every aspect of this knife is quite honestly perfection. And it doesn't get carried as much as it should, probably because of just the sheer volume of knives that I own, which is kind of a sad statement. But this is kind of one of those, you know, if there's only one knife you could own, this quite possibly could be, you know, the best one, plus the Sebenza. And as I look around at all my other knives, you know, I could probably say all the other ones as well. Custom Knife Factory. I've got two other custom knife factories coming in, but I'm probably not going to be able to get them in time for this whole video. But the Decepticon 2, I've been able to handle the Decepticon 1, save for the clip. I like everything about the Decepticon 2 better. But this, this knife is just, it's a monster. It's huge, it's long, but it's slimmer in the pocket than the Decepticon 1. I just like the aesthetics of it a lot more. Obviously, this one has been customized by me. All the purple blue for somewhat of that more Decepticon theme. I just love this knife. I think eventually one day I may bronze everything and go with the acid stonewash on the blade. I think it would look pretty sick. But as it stands, I carry this one quite a bit, and it's not like, surprisingly, it's not that big in the pocket. So yeah, Brian Fellholter. This is the FLG. This is a 2012 model with the carbon fiber scales with triple fullers, titanium bolster, and then the darkened titanium frame lock side, two-tone on the blade. Just love this knife. It's crazy smooth, great user, great EDC size in my opinion. And then rounding out this section is the compact dauntless made by Brian Fellholter for Triple Lot Design. Just a really cool compact design. Front choil up here, or half, I guess not half choil, but choil up here is to really choke in on, so you can really concentrate on that little blade for really fine cutting. So really cool blade from Brian Fellholter. Alright, so that's the section here. Alright, rounding out the collection, these are my favorite ones. Save for one, I just have it in here coupled with another custom maker, or with the same custom maker. So just for a little bit of continuity. But I keep them pretty much in this Pelican 1200 case. I can fit 7 knives in here. Sometimes I'll interchange them, but these are the ones that typically stay in this case here. So this kind of rounds out my entire collection. And so we'll start off with one of my most carried knives, which is actually considered a production knife, but the Rockstead Shin. One of the sharpest knives, I think just one of the most beautiful knives with the polished DLC coating, stingray pattern. Yeah, I carry this a lot, not just because it's expensive, but I actually did get this one used, and so got a great deal on this knife. It was chipped and I sharpened it myself. I didn't send it to Rockstead. Sharpened on the wicked edge, did just fine. And it's a great edge. I can't say it's maybe, it's definitely not as sharp as what would come from Rockstead, but it's still one of my sharpest knives. And the wicked edge can pretty much get any knife to, extremely sharp quality. So Rockstead, I'll go this way. This is the one I included in here. It's not my favorite knife, but it's a Les Voorhees Model 10. With the Damascus dual bolsters on each side and the green carbon fiber. This is the XL version actually, so it is slightly larger, a 3.5 inch blade. I love Les Voorhees' work, and so I'm just including it in here. Next up we've got the Les Voorhees Supernova, the collaboration with Faisal Yamin. One of my favorite, also another one of my favorite user knives. Carry this one all the time. The proud titanium liners with the lightning strike carbon fiber, the milled pocket clip. I just think it's one of the most perfect form factors. The thumb kind of just sits right on that little depression right there. Really comfortable in hand. Great flipper, so fun to play with over and over. Yeah, I love this knife. Love the look of the bronze with the carbon fiber. Rounding out the Les Voorhees collection in my collection, this is the Simplex. Got the blue titanium liners with zirconium scale and then a blue titanium overlay. All blue titanium hardware from Steve Kelly. Zirconium backspacer as well with that lanyard hole. Just an awesome, I love the form factor of this knife. Please excuse all the fingerprints, but another knife that's just crazy smooth. This is one of my more formal carry knives, but I still carry it just whenever. I carry it all the time. So I kind of interchange between these knives. Next up, gosh, which one do I pull out? In terms of my favorites, I'll pull out the R.J. Martin. This is the Q36, one of the crowning pieces in my collection. CTS 204 piece steel, so it's got one of the good steels on it. The typical, carbon fiber, more or less just perfect fit and finish, on this blade. Honestly, the best flipper out there. I've never handled something like a Frank Fisher, which I've heard are very good, and I probably never will, and that's totally fine, But this, as a flipper, this is probably one of the most fun knives to play with. Can't justify paying $2,000 for it. I didn't. I got it in a good trade, so I'm thankful for that. But yeah, this is an amazing knife. I guess I'll do this one, the Estrella. Estrellas have been discontinued for quite some time now, but I've had 2 Estrellas in my collection, and I sold the other one off, or traded it off, and then ended up getting this one with the full rippled spine, frame side, presentation side. A lot of ripples or jig patterns that I've seen don't have the lock bar jigged or don't have the spine jigged. So this one is full frame rippled pattern. It's got the Lionsteel. I think this is the rose pattern Lionsteel with the 10K gold stud on here. I'm still debating back and forth with Michael whether I'm going to get the 3D Damascus clip with the Damascus pivot. It's pretty costly, so I'm still going back and forth with it. But this is, again, another one of my crown jewels of my collection. And then finally, to round it all off, is maybe one of my top 3 favorite knives in my collection. It's my Alpha from Tom Crine. Lightning strike carbon fiber scales, superconductor bolsters, milled blue clip, copper backspacer, blue liners, CPM 154 steel, just Tom's amazing grinds. This knife is just incredible, so smooth. As a thumb stud flipper, it's just amazing. So, yep, that rounds it out. Thanks for watching the entire video. If you did, or if you skipped around, that's totally fine too. But thanks for going through my entire collection with me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Hope you guys enjoyed this feature film, and you guys take care, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.